If you are looking for a different kind of Christmas movie, we're going to reveal 3 picks that are non-traditional Christmas movies. So these are more like they're not really intended to be a Christmas movie, but we think they're Christmassy. So we're going to make the case for why you should watch them. And the first movie we're going to reveal is
No.
Batman Returns. 1992, starring Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and Danny DeVito as Penguin. So this is a dark, strange, Christmassy movie, but it is very Christmassy.
Mhm.
The first scene, without spoiling anything, the Christmas tree lighting in Gotham City is taking place, and it is going to be sabotaged. So that's your opening scene. You get to see Batman sort of fight. An interesting thing to do if you watch this movie, count how many punches Batman throws, because I'm not really sure if he actually does much in this movie. He doesn't do, he couldn't move very well in the suit, so they didn't do a lot of punching, but he just looks cool. There's a lot of snow in Gotham City. There's presents everywhere. There's like a giant present that some bad guys pop out of. So there's Christmas stuff all throughout this movie. It's very difficult, even though the plot isn't about Christmas. I think it's kind of difficult to get away from Christmas in that movie. So I watch it every couple years at Christmas. That is my go-to Christmas movie. I'm getting ready to watch it again this year. But if you think about it, just watch the movie. You're watching all these people dressed up, and Batman's, you could argue that maybe a grown man who dresses as a bat is not healthy, but he's the one who has compassion. And the other characters, they're all dressed up in their costumes, and they're acting out a different motivation, right? So here on this podcast, we always, something that makes us unique is we share spiritual themes in movies. So something to follow is like, being a misfit, and what is the motivation of someone who dresses up as a vigilante and runs around? Because you see the good and the bad, and then you see Batman and Catwoman's unusual romance there, where, I don't know, when I watched that movie, I was like, whoa, why is he going for her? She is almost like homicidal, like, do you really want to date this person? But that's something fun to watch. I'm not a big fan of the Penguin in this movie, and you may not be either. They just kind of made him like really gross. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching it with your wife or significant other, and she's sensitive to like weird, creepy dudes, she might not like this movie. But speaking of presents, and there being lots of presents, decorations, and all around Gotham City, the funniest present that anyone receives in this movie is when Batman puts dynamite down someone's pants. So this is an interesting Batman who's okay with blowing people up, frying them with a Batmobile. Yeah, you should
That's one
see
guy
this
on fire
movie.
with the Batmobile. Yeah.
I didn't like it the first time I saw it, and after then it's grown on me because I got over Penguin. My ideal version of this movie was you just edit out all the Penguin parts, and then I think it would be an amazing movie. But if you can overlook that, it's entertaining.
Yeah. I think
Remember
the Penguin
to
would
count
be
the
better
punches.
had they not made him so weird looking. Like
Yeah.
maybe tone down the long nose and the flippers and stuff like that. It just made him a little bit more human. Maybe I could have. But this movie's got cameos by Pee Wee Herman. Paul Rubens
Oh, really? Where
plays
at?
his father at the very
He
beginning.
plays the Penguin's dad. Yeah.
Oh.
And his
Just sits
mom,
there and is like, mm-hmm.
and the mom she's also in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. She's the girl who he sits up in the dinosaur mouth with, Simone. This is Tim Burton using former Tim Burton actors. And I think this movie's got Tim Burton written all over it. It's almost like a live action Nightmare Before Christmas, the way the bad guys look.
And I'm glad you brought up the parents too, because one of the things to watch in this movie is Tim Burton likes to focus on the misfits, right? And people who are born of tragedy. So you have Batman and you've got Catwoman and you've got Penguin. Well, one of them like survived that tragedy in, like I said, a healthier way. He's coping better. But the other two, I mean, they're victims of tragedy. At the beginning of the movie, Penguin's parents drop him in the sewer like he's a baby, and they don't want him.
That's a Moses kind of thing.
Yeah, he's like evil Moses. So it's interesting to think about, like, okay, two people with almost a similar origin. Batman had no parents, Penguin had no parents, but one comes out of it better and one comes out of it a terrorist. And it is interesting to also think about the people who are around them. What role did they play in shaping that person into either a hero or a monster? I mean, I think people as individuals still get to make their own choices too. But Batman had Alfred to mentor him. Like, who did Penguin have?
A
Like,
bunch of
he got
penguins.
dumped in the sewer. Like, alligators? I don't know. Don't think about the logistics, because, like, how did this baby survive alone in the sewer? It doesn't make any sense, but
Right.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's my pick, and we've got two more.
Well, I got one more thing, Doug. Let's see if you can get this. So you mentioned the guy that he puts the present on and then pushes down into the manhole, and the guy blows up. Doug,
Yes.
I was watching that movie, and I saw him, and I recognized him from another film in the 80s. I've only seen him in one other movie. This guy was in a movie in 1987 with Stallone.
Over the top.
Over the Top. That was Bull Harley. That got blown up.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yep.
I remember that scene now.
Yep. Well, I like
I was gonna
Batman.
say, easy actor, it's got to be over the top.
Yep, that's the only one. But no, it's a good pick. I think of I get very Christmas vibes on it. I love that movie anyway. But yeah, it's to me that I think of Christmas films. Batman Returns comes up on that too.
I need to watch it again because I remember watching it in high school. Maybe, yeah, it might have been college for me, but it was not received well.
Yeah, I was about to say, Drew, when you said you liked it, I was going to say that makes
Doug.
two of us.
I like it.
Oh yeah, and watch for Catwoman's origin too, because she'll go through a tragedy at the beginning, and the
No one can do Catwoman.
like what shaped her, like the responsibility of the people who like abused her to make her what she was. That's interesting. Every character in the movie has some kind of origin like that. Every main character.
Yeah. Hey, Drew, what kind of movie do you got?
Well, I've made it very clear on this several times that I believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. But since we've already talked about that one, I decided we're going to talk about Die Hard 2.
Of course.
Of course.
And I knew that, so I
Yeah.
dressed up for it.
He does. He got the Nakatomi Plaza Christmas
Hey,
party.
can't see it all. Christmas
That
party,
is
1989,
88.
88.
So Die Hard 2 takes place again on Christmas Eve. And this time we find John McClane. He's in Washington, D.C. And he's still an L.A. cop now, but he's in D.C. And he's hanging out with his in-laws, and he's waiting on his wife, who's flying in from Los Angeles, who actually he happens to be on the same plane with the bad dude, one of the evil reporter
Bad reporter
from the first movie.
in every other movie he's in.
And every
Or
other
he's the
one.
bad guy.
But it's Christmas Eve. They got a snowstorm coming in. The government is taking this foreign general, and he's supposed to be going to prison, but some traitors in the United States government and military are going to hijack the plane and basically transport him onto a new plane and fly him out of the country. And John McClane says, not on my watch. This isn't happening. So it basically just takes place at Dulles Airport outside of D.C., and John McClane steps right back into action. He even says in this movie, like, what's the chance of this happening to the same guy 2 Christmas Eves? This, what, how can this happen to me? But it's got that Christmassy feel. Not as much as the first one. First one's got a lot of Christmas music in it. This one's got some, but still with the idea of it taking place on Christmas Eve, I'll go ahead and classify it as a Christmas film.
In the snow. Lots of snow.
Lots of snow. And the bad guy from LAPD Blue. Or the one, or the mean cop was on LAPD Blue or something like that.
And Meat from Porky's.
And Meat from
He's in it.
Porky's.
He doesn't have any lines, but he gets his eye gouged out.
Yeah. But it's got some decent action scenes. But I guess if I was looking for a Christmas theme in this, I guess it's, again, just kind of not thinking about yourself and doing good for others. And that's kind of what Christmas is about, is about helping others, being there for others, not really being in it for you, not asking, like, if I give you this, what do I get in return? It's really not what it's about. And McClane has now demonstrated that in 2 consecutive Christmases, where he's about helping other people and just doing what's right and stepping in and taking charge of a situation when nobody else either is capable of doing it or wants to ignore it and doesn't want to do it. And in this case, it's they don't want to do it. He's bringing all this attention of what he's seen, and everyone's just turning him away, like, yeah, you're that crazy guy that blew up a tower in Los Angeles, and no one wants to listen to it. But he was right. So, but I think that's kind of the Christmas vibe I would get from this one.
Right on.
Yeah.
And it was a fun movie. He was still John McClane. He wasn't Super McClane at this point.
Yeah, he's definitely not Super McClane. He could still get hurt.
Yeah, he was running around and driving that golf cart around. It was fun.
Yeah.
So even though it took place on Christmas Eve again, no, it was a decent movie.
Well, you mentioned it has the same Ghostbusters effect that if Die Hard 1 wasn't around, this one would be considered, the action movie that made Bruce Willis a star.
Yeah, we talked about that in the when we did Die Hard. Die Hard is one of the most important, one of the biggest action movies ever. And I'm not saying it's the greatest or anything like that, which it very well could be. It's in that conversation. But, it wasn't your typical action movie. It didn't have Stallone or Schwarzenegger or somebody who knew Kung Fu or karate or something like that. It was the goofy guy from Moonlighting or who sang that weird, lounge music.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did the Bartles and James commercials. And
yeah, it was just, it was like
blues music.
What is this guy doing in an action movie? And then when you go to see it and it's like, holy crap, that's an action movie, And so this was just a few years after it. And, it was still, you were still deep in the Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme was coming on scene.
Yeah.
Seagal with his
slap fighting,
martial arts, and weird running. But yeah, McClane was just your everyday dude that just did everything. He was just a cop, but he became super cop there for a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
but this one,
it's
first
fun.
two are the ones I really go to. The third one was pretty good too, but the first two are I think would be my go-to Die Hard movies. Plus, especially 3 has nothing to do with Christmas, so
I make the half joking, half serious argument that John McClane is a biblical character because in Ephesians 5:25, it says that like the way a husband is supposed to love his wife is to be willing to die for her, and that is exactly what John McClane does in the first 2 Die Hard movies.
Exactly.
So
much.
And I think that. Okay, so some of the people who might maybe use the Bible to go on a power trip and like lord over their wives, they forget about that verse. So,
yeah, all 4 Die Hard movies have something to do with family. First one, he's protecting his wife. This one, he's going with his wife. 5, I'm sorry, I forgot about the 5th one. But
third one doesn't have family.
It has Hans Gruber's brother.
Oh, so it's the flip.
Flip on that one.
Good one on that. With yeah. Okay.
And then the fourth one is his son.
Fourth one's his daughter.
5th one's his son.
There you go.
So there we go. Like I said, I don't think I've even seen the 5th one.
I haven't either.
None of us have.
But although every one has something to do with family. And in the 3rd one, Hans Gruber's brother, Franz Gruber, or whatever his name is wanting revenge for you killed my brother and now I'm after you.
Prepare to die.
And so, yeah, it's kind of Die Hard's all got this family theme also, which again is what Christmas is about. All right.
Cool.
Well, that's my Die Hard too. And Doug, what do you got?
And my Christmas movie is The Gremlins.
Yeah.
Or is it? I think it's just Gremlins.
Gremlins. Yeah.
Again, a movie. It's a comedy horror.
I would classify that as a comedy horror film.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with what was it, like Chud and Critters, if you remember that movie with those little spiky balls rolled around and stuff. It was in a cheesy way like that, a little bit cheesier, less violent, more. It was aimed at kids.
I saw it in the theaters.
Yeah, it was 100%. You had Mogwai and Gremlins cups at McDonald's and the Happy Meals. So it was a kid's movie, but if you watch it, well, let me tell you a little bit about it first, I guess. It's all about this family, and the dad wants to get the perfect Christmas present for his son. And he's in different city in Chinatown, and he's in this old Chinese, I don't know, antique shop or something like that. And he finds this little animal, which we find out is a mogwai, a little bit bigger than a hamster. I don't know, just a little furry dude. And he ends up getting this. The guy doesn't want to sell it to him, but he ends up, the guy's grandson sells it to him.
Yeah.
So first thing to take away from the movie, don't buy weird things from 12-year-old kids in Chinatown alleys. So anyway, this pet has a bunch of different rules that go along with it. One being don't get wet. Two being do not feed it after midnight.
Sunlight.
There's a third one. Sunlight. Yeah. Do not put it in sunlight because sunlight will kill it. So those are the three rules but why?
Right.
See, that's the problem he made. He did not ask why. But anyway, we'll get into it. Anyway, he gives the Christmas present to his son. Son loves it, but the son, thanks to Corey Feldman, who always screws things up in 80s movies, dumps water on it, which causes him. Was it a him? Her?
I'm just saying. I think
they are asexual.
Yeah,
because they can all give birth, which is what Gizmo, the name of the mogwai, that's what it does. It gives birth. It just pops out like 6 little balls, and they stand up, and all of a sudden now you have 7 mogwais. So that's what happens when they get wet. When you feed them after midnight, that's when things get bad, because that's when they turn from mogwais into gremlins. And gremlins are just violent monsters.
Things.
Yeah, that just all they want to do is cause havoc, chaos, just destroy, kill if necessary. If you can, great. And that's where the movie kind of flips. It's this kind of interesting movie about this kid who has this cool little pet and everything like that. And then it just goes straight horror from there. Monster. Again, you watch that as an adult, it's cheesy and it's fun. And there's a
lot of comedy in it, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like at one point, you hear the doorbell ring, guy walks out, opens the door, and it's a bunch of gremlins sitting there singing
Christmas caroling.
Yeah, so it's like, that's weird. But then you go to the other side of town, and they're killing this old lady using a
Eagle.
Yeah, using the electronic chair. So
it's just right out a window.
Yeah, shooting right out the window. It's funny because it is like I said, they marketed it to kids, and there's no way you could pull that off today. I don't think. I think you'd get a lot of people complaining because, there's a scene in the kitchen where the mom is fighting a couple gremlins, and she takes them both out. One, she throws in a microwave, turns it on, and it explodes. Yeah. Shows the whole thing. And 2, she takes the second one and throws it in a blender
and turns it on, and
turns it on,
grind it up.
And just guts and pieces going everywhere. And I didn't do a lot of research. I can't remember when this came out, but I want to say it was mid 86,
84.
Oh, was it 84? Was it that early?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So anyway, I was 9 when I saw this.
Yeah, I was 6
so.
Or something.
So it's funny that as a kid that is younger than my nieces are now, and I think Drew would let his kids watch it.
Oh yeah,
you can see how different it was back then, because there would be a lot of people complaining about that movie being a kid's movie today.
Yeah. I mean, it got a PG rating, and there's not a lot of swearing in it, but I mean, there's some violence, and then there's the bar scene. All these gremlins are in a bar. They're smoking. They're shooting each other with guns. They're flashing each other.
Yeah, there's a flasher.
It's just, drinking beer, and it's like, what is this? But it's so great.
It's funny you mention that, because the studio for Batman Returns was upset that the movie was darker than they expected, and kids were crying and leaving the theater, and so when Batman Forever was being made, the next movie, they could only get limited action figures made for that movie because nobody wanted to take it on after Batman Returns. They were
Really?
like, "Oh, you shouldn't have marketed this to kids."
There
So
were
they didn't
Gremlins
realize. I mean,
toys.
McDonald's had a deal.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I had
There was a
toys
Gremlins
from Batman
cartoon.
Returns.
There was Gremlins everything.
Yeah, Gremlins
Yeah.
action figures. I had a Stripe. He's the bad guy,
Yeah,
the main
bad
guy Gremlin.
So that's 84. 8 years
Actually,
later.
I think I've got some commemorative glasses. Now
Do
that
you
I think
really?
of it, right down here from McDonald's. I'll check that out.
Gremlins or Returns?
Gremlins.
Okay.
Oh, Gremlins was everywhere.
Yeah, it was huge. They made a sequel of it, which was an interesting
sequel-
movie.
What
We
I-
should talk about that. I'm not going to go too deep into
Yeah,
it.
but the first one is just so good though. You
Yeah.
know, even
Yeah, and it has a good message. It's not about what you give at Christmas time. It's just being there with your family and your friends. And,
Yeah, there is one scene that, like, when my kids first watched it, I would just kind of skip through real quick. And it has nothing to do with gore or violence. It's Phoebe talking about why she doesn't believe in Santa Claus. And she said that she was waiting for her dad to come home. And one Christmas Eve, and he never showed up. And they didn't know what was going on. And then the next day, they started smelling something, and they had to call the fire department, and they found her dad stuck in the chimney because he had dressed up as Santa Claus and was coming down the chimney to surprise her and got stuck and basically died. And she says, and that's how I found out that there was no Santa Claus. So that's the only part that I had to skip across. Cause one, I don't want my kids when they're little picturing their dad getting stuck in the chimney. And two, we still have the magic of Santa Claus still happens in this house. So I have to try to still protect that. But I'm not ready to answer those questions yet either, but.
and hopefully there are no kids watching this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, too late. Sorry guys.
Nah, there's no 6-year-olds
Just
watching
kidding.
this. But yeah, the movie's basically about, it's not what you do or how much you do. Just be there for your family, and don't be mean during Christmas because little monsters might show up and throw you out a window.
Yep. And follow instructions.
Yeah, follow instructions. It's not that hard. Put the thing in a cage.
So my question about this, and I think this is a question a lot of people have asked, is don't feed them after midnight. Well, technically 10 a.m. is after midnight. So can you be a little bit more specific on the after? Is it like between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m.?
Well, they make fun of that in part 2 as well.
They do. But that's one thing, even as a kid, they're like, don't feed them after midnight. And I'm like, well, when are you supposed to feed them? Because technically you're always after midnight. So there's got to be some kind of a cutoff, right?
True. We'll go deep into that if we ever go deeper into. They've got to make a Gremlins 3 at
I
some
think they're
point. They're
doing
redoing everything else.
I think Netflix is doing like a Gremlins cartoon or something.
Oh yeah,
It's called like
that'd be
Mogwai.
stupid. Anyway, we might do a full podcast on any of these movies at some point. We're going to run out of movies someday, so I'm sure we'll do. Gremlins, Gremlins 2, Die Hard 2, 3, 4, 5, Batman 562.
Well,
I'm
if
okay
I'm
if
gonna
I,
rank-
if I never watch Batman and Robin. We don't have to do that one.
Oh, but that one's so bad. It's good.
Yeah, Nathan's going to make us do that. You know it.
Well, if I were going to rank these movies for the viewers in terms of family friendly to don't watch this with your kids, probably the most kid friendly is going to be Gremlins. And then when your kids hit middle school, you can watch Batman Returns with them. I got scared when I was in elementary school when I saw it because you'll see a skeleton and stuff like that, or a fried person. And then Die Hard 2 is so Gremlins is probably PG, right? So PG, PG-13, R.
Yeah.
But I'd be
That's
curious
agree.
if it was PG today.
Yeah,
Today Gremlins
yeah.
would be PG-13 just because of the smoking and the guns and the violence and the blood and
Blowing up.
Yeah.
Well, heck, even when he starts, spoiler, but towards the end, Stripe, the evil gremlin, jumps in a fountain. And, his back is bubbling up, and he's like, in pain and everything. There's ooze. Yeah, it's
Then
a little bit.
when the sun hits him.
Yeah.
So Did you recognize the little town square in Gremlins, Doug? Do you know what movie that's
Yeah, that
from?
was Back to the Future.
It is. It's the main street to Back to the Future. The actual theater that Marty drives through in Back to the Future is the theater that the Gremlins went and watched Snow White in. Oh yeah, there's a whole scene of them in the theater watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and they love it.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
They're all singing "Hi Ho." It's great.
You guys got any last words?
No?
I think all three of these movies are worth a watch.
Yep.
And although they're not movies about Christmas, they do have some Christmas themes in them. So, and basically, that's what Going My Way was. I think we just did that podcast, and that one was more of for me or for my mom than anything else. But I think we're going to talk a little bit more about Christmassy, more Christmassy movies coming up, though.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
And if you want to get a Nakatomi Plaza Christmas party t-shirt or sweatshirt, check the links, the video links. We put some movie merch in the description of the video, so check that out. And thank you guys for joining us. Let us know if you watch these movies and if there are any other non-Christmas Christmas movies you recommend. See you guys soon.
Thanks.
See ya.
Like, subscribe.